One of the choices that Gibraltar made was A, to be British, B, to accept a referendum which they had voted overwhelmingly against, because Gibraltar's relationship with the European Union, because of a land border, is inevitably different. And 96% of the voters of Gibraltar would have preferred that we had remained in the European Union. But the Gibraltarians, as part of the British family, went with the democratic vote of the British family, and we owe them in consequence of that. The most important thing that we owe them, and that must be delivered by the Foreign Office, is a proper UK EU treaty on Gibraltar that reflects the particular needs that Gibraltar has. Gibraltar has transformed itself magnificently over the last few decades, from a traditional garrison come dockyard economy into a very diverse and thriving one, with tourism, internet businesses, and in particular a very successful financial services sector. To fuel and make that economy work, some 15,000 people a day cross the land border with Spain at La Linea. Keeping that land border free-flowing is an essential prerequisite of any deal that must be achieved in a way which respects Gibraltar's sovereignty and integrity. That should not be impossible to do. It should be the top priority now of the Foreign Office in resolving the remaining EU-UK issues. It's the top priority, I'll show you, of the Spanish Foreign Office. It ought to be a high priority for us too. It should work for both sides because, in fact, the economic prosperity that Gibraltar generates greatly assists those regions of Spain joining it in the Hump de Gibraltar. So it would be in everybody's interest to get this. We must get that done. Should, heaven forbid, we fail, then we would have a moral obligation to pick up the costs, the economic costs, that would fall upon Gibraltar in consequence. The best thing to do is make sure that never happens and that we get a deal. The second thing is practical support that we can give to Gibraltar in various specific ways. The success of the University of Gibraltar, Mr Deputy Speaker, has already been referred to. It's quite right that we should surely have them treated as home students for the purpose of access to UK loans. Surely, too, they should have access to research funds, for example, the successor to the Horizon programmes. They lost that when we lost the EU. We should ensure that they are included. Gibraltar University has a very successful midwifery course and programme. Bizarrely, Gibraltar midwifery qualifications are not recognised by the UK Nursing Midwifery Council. That's something I hope the Department of Health will put right. Do you want to interrupt me?
I'm going to.
The most important thing beyond that is the position of Gibraltar's health service. The health service is not able to procure NHS supplies at the same price as the rest of UK procurement. That cannot be logical. Those are the practical things that we do. If we talk about them being family, we should treat them as family. I'll happily give way to my little friend.
I'm grateful to my right honourable friend for giving way. Also on the issue of Gibraltar Airport, does he believe that it is incumbent on the British government to seek to help the ROC as far as possible in terms of solutions that actually could be extremely beneficial to them?
Absolutely right. The airport was designed in a way which, had relations between Britain and the EU been different, could have been extremely beneficial to both sides of the border. That may yet still be possible. I believe there is goodwill. No one has worked harder than the Gibraltar ministers and their officials to try and get a deal on this. Absolute maturity and good faith have been demonstrated by Gibraltar, and it's important that we support them in that. It's also important, too, that we talk perhaps to the MOD about the operation of the airport, because I was rather shocked to see, for example, the airport had to close the other day because the Met Office couldn't send somebody to make sure that the weather forecasts were available. We've got to get that right and treat Gibraltar on a proper basis. These are basics that we ought to get right.
Will my right honourable learned friend give way? I thank my right honourable learned friend for giving way. He touched there on the word official. I just wanted to put on record and ask his advice as a learned friend. Recently there was a controversy where a senior civil servant of the Foreign Office was lambasted and publicly named in the media as having undermined British sovereignty in Gibraltar. Does he share my unease that individuals in this House, or perhaps associated to them, chose to brief out against a Foreign Office civil servant who has no right of reply? They cannot contact the media, they cannot correct the record, and they cannot speak up on their own behalf. I am gravely concerned about the sort of reputation and standard that is set. Would my right honourable and learned friend agree that we should be considerate of the way in which we speak about civil servants who cannot respond?
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend. I entirely share that. I'm glad to say that the Chief Minister of Gibraltar made a very clear statement after that unfortunate comment was made, making it clear that there was no question of concern by the Government of Gibraltar as to the competence or probity of the officials' conduct, and that fortunately nothing had been done to prejudice the negotiations. But the raising of it did not help at that time, and it was a needless distraction. And I hope, therefore, we will show the same maturity, actually, that Gibraltarians themselves have done throughout the whole of this process. The final thing that I was going to touch upon, Sir Roger, was the whole question of sovereign rate borrowing, which has already been referred to. Because of the pandemic, Gibraltar had to borrow significantly. We were grateful for the support that they were given. They want to continue to be able to borrow money at UK sovereign rates, because the sovereign rate guarantee, of course, means you can get a much more attractive rate. Now, given that we're already charging them more than the rest of the UK would pay for their NHS supplies, and much of this went to keep the health service going and their economy going, surely we owe them the decency of a guarantee of 25 years repayment at sovereign rates on the money that was done to assist them during the pandemic. Yeah. Gibraltar is a brilliant place. I hope many members will join the APUG. I hope we'll be at National Day again this year, joining with the people of Gibraltar, reaffirming their British identity, but we need to give them practical support in the interim now.
SNP spokesman.